Welcome to Digital Literacy, a guide to using technology and journalism.
Okay, today we're going to talk about audio recording. We're going to go through the mechanics of how we record audio, the tools that we have for use here at the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication, and we'll talk a little bit about interviewing techniques. So laid out here in front of you are the four basic components that are going to come with the audio recording kits that you'll be using. We'll start all the way over here at the right, and in a moment we'll go through a more technical explanation of these different things. This is the Olympus audio recorder that we use. We have a basic set of earphones. These are standard ones that you would use in an MP3 player. There should be a set in every kit, but just in case, you may want to bring along your own set. We've got a Nady SP4C microphone here, and then the cable and adapter that will connect the microphone back to the recorder. So I'm going to very quickly just slide some of these things out of the way because we're not going to talk a whole lot about them right away. But I do want to talk about the importance of audio as I'm moving these out of the way. For your audio slideshows, for any podcasts that you do, and for video, it's really important that you get very, very good at recording audio. When it comes to audio slideshows and videos, audio actually drives almost everything that's in your package there. So we need to make sure that we're getting good quality audio and we're getting the right content on our audio. We'll talk a little bit more about some interviewing techniques towards the end of this presentation, but I want to go over this recorder first. The recorders that we use are built by Olympus, and we have a couple of different ones. This one is a model number of WS321M, which I think is funny because it's white, not some M color. But we have a couple of different variations on these because we've been buying these for the last couple of years. But all of them have essentially the same basic kind of an operation here. One of the reasons that we chose these is it's got a good feature set at a good price point. So if you decide that you want to put together your own audio recording kit, this recorder online is about $80. Sometimes they drop down into the 70s, sometimes they're up into the high 80s. But the entire kit, the recorder, the microphone, and the cable and the adapter, you can put together for between $90 and $100, which is not bad to be able to go out and become a multimedia journalist on your own. So again, most of the recorders are going to look like this. A couple of them are a little bit different. Some of the very, very new ones have a switch on the bottom that's a little different. But for the most part, they're pretty basic. To start out with, on one side here, you're going to see that you've got two switches. One of them is marked hold, and the other is marked music and voice. You want to make sure that the music and voice is always on voice. This will allow you to record and play back the audio. If you put it on music, it becomes an MP3 player, which you probably don't want to do. The hold switch is actually the on-off switch, and when it's in the up position like this, the recorder is off. And if I flip it over and spin it, you can turn that on, and you'll see that it comes up and does a system check. Now, again, the displays on some of these are a little bit different, but for the most part, they're fairly similar. Opposite that side, you've got three buttons here: a record button, a stop button, a play button. Those are fairly self-explanatory. You've got a little multi-selector switch here. A couple of things that I do want you to pay attention to is there's a folder button here, and you can see in the upper left-hand corner we're in folder A. If we push this, you can see it'll cycle around through 5 different folders marked A through E, and then it comes back to A on the 6th push of the button. In the upper right-hand corner, it's telling you which track you're on right now. We have no tracks recorded on here, so it's saying that we're at 00 of 00. Now, when you go to move your files off of this, you're going to find that you have 5 folders marked, coincidentally, A, B, C, D, and E, so it's kind of important that you pay attention to where your folders are right now. To reformat these, if you push and hold the center OK button here, you'll get a little menu here, and there's a whole bunch of different things that are in here. You can turn the beeps on and off. If you come down to sub-menu, push that, and come down to format, it's going to ask you a couple of times if this is what you really want to do. You press start. It's going to warn you that your data will be cleared. You can then push up for start again, and it's going to go through and format it. When you're first starting out on your assignment, you probably want to go ahead and do that. That's just going to wipe out any data that's sitting on there and gets everything ready to go. So that'll take a few seconds to chug through there. Meantime, I want to move to the top of this, and this is my favorite part of this recorder. It has 2 jacks on top of it marked ear and mic, and ear is obviously where you're going to plug in your earphones. Microphone is where you can plug in an external microphone. Now you'll also see that there's an L and an R marked on here, and on the edges there are very, very small microphones. And those are decent quality, but they're not fantastic. So one of the things that we like to be able to do with this is plug in an external microphone. Now one of the big advantages to the Olympus recorder is that when you plug in a microphone here, you can plug in your headphones here and you can hear exactly what it is that you're recording, which is a huge advantage because there are a couple of little problems that can crop up. Sometimes you get some background noise, sometimes you get a cable that's not in great shape and you get a little hum or a buzz. That'll let you know that you're having problems with your audio right away. Now, the one thing that you do want to watch out for is those connections can be a little fragile. So when we plug in, and I've just got the adapter here, this cable, you want to be careful of this, because if this moves around a whole lot, you're going to get some scratching, some static, which is going to be very difficult to edit out, and it may destroy your recording. If you're ever in a situation where you're on an assignment and you're getting that, go ahead, unplug it, use the built-in microphones. It's more important to get the story than to get super high quality audio here, but you want to use the microphones as much as you possibly can. Again, you can plug the earphones in there, and that will let you listen to what it is that you have. To adjust the volume, that's buried again in the menus there, so you can go ahead and actually it's on the multi-selector switch when you're playing it back. Now, these all run on a single AAA battery. On these white ones, there's a little lever or a little hatch down here on the bottom. You can slide that out of the way. There's the battery. Usually we'll have spare batteries around for your in-class assignments, but if you buy one of these, you want to make sure you always have one on your own. Now, the really big advantage to these things is that when you're done recording, you got to get the files off of them. And these are incredibly easy. There's a little release switch on the back here. You push that in, you slide it out, and it's actually a USB jack. So this will plug in and it'll show up just like a USB thumb drive would onto any kind of a computer that you have. So I'm going to put this back together. But that's a really handy thing to do. Now, I said on some of the newer ones that we have, on the bottom there's actually like a little flip-out USB port here. There's just a little switch on it. So the form factor is a little different, but the operation is essentially exactly the same. Now, those files, it's important that we talk about this. The files that this creates are what are called Windows Media Audio files, or WMA files. It's a highly compressed kind of an audio file, and it's convenient for recording on, but it's not very easy to edit. So one of the things that we will do is, after you're done recording, come back into the lab, we're going to convert those files after we copy them off. Now, in the next lesson, we'll talk about the actual process of copying things over and the conversion, so we're not going to worry about that a whole lot today. But essentially what we'll do is we're going to run those WMA files through a program called Switch, and that program is going to actually convert those files into a different file format. It's 3 file formats that we're going to worry about. The first one is those WMAs. The second one are what are called WAV files, or WAV files, and these are the extensions that you'll see at the end of the files when you copy them over and when you change them. A WAV file is an uncompressed, high-quality audio file, so it's actually a better file to edit off of and to archive with, and that Switch program will convert WMAs to WAVs. Those WAV files we're going to bring into our audio editing software, which is called Audacity. We'll talk more about Audacity next week as well. And then we'll do our editing. And when we export from Audacity, we're going to export as an MP3 file. Now, MP3s you're familiar with because you use them on your audio players, but they're also a universal standard for the web. And when we start creating audio slideshows in a couple of weeks, MP3 files are the only types of files that we can import into SoundSlides, one of the other software packages that we'll be working with in a couple of weeks. So just once again, a couple of real quick things about this. You want to be very, very careful about those jacks. If you move that thing around a little bit, you're going to start getting some scratching. Some of these may loosen up over the course of the semester. So you always want to make sure that you're being very, very careful with that. It's very, very important. So I'm going to put this down, stick it over here to the side for a moment, and I'm going to bring up our microphone. And again, this is a Nady microphone, N-A-D-Y, and the model number on these ones are SP4C. And these are really pretty decent microphones. They're a heavy metal, so they've got some durability built into them. One of the things that I do want you to be careful of is there is an on-off switch on these. And so you want to make sure that you have it in the on position. This is another reason that you always want to be listening to your audio as you're recording. Because if you happen to throw that into the off switch and you're not listening to your audio, what's going to happen is you're going to have several minutes worth of silence. And that's going to make it pretty difficult to go ahead and get any editing done when you don't have any audio to start with. These microphones are available online. They're about $15 or $16. Pretty durable. They do have, it's not the highest quality microphones. The industry standard for broadcast is something called an Electro Voice EV635B microphone, which is about $120 a piece. And again, these are 15 or 16 bucks. So as a learning tool, these are really, really nice. And what they do come with is this ridiculously long cable. And this cable has 2 different jacks on it. At one end, it has this big funny looking jack. Flip this over so that you can see it. And this is called an XLR connection. And it's a 3 connector connection, and it's a positive lock connection. So when we plug this together, you're going to hear it click right there. And it's a positive lock connection. To release it, you need to push this button and pull it out. And it's a pretty stiff connection on this one. Now, that's a good solid connection there, but again, over time, these can loosen up. So you want to make sure that this is in good shape. Whenever you're done recording, please separate these and put them back into the bag apart, because if this gets bent around a whole lot, you can start to loosen up connections in here. That'll cause all kinds of problems. So Slide that out of the way. At the other end of the cable, when you buy one of these microphones, it has what's called a 1/4-inch phono connection, which you've probably seen before. Now, if you look at the jack that's on the top of the audio recorder, it's significantly smaller. So we get this little adapter from Radio Shack for $5 or $6. We slide that onto there, and now we can connect everything together. So that's the basic audio recording kit. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the microphone some more, so I'm going to slide this out of the way. And the microphone itself, it's an omnidirectional microphone, so it's a good general purpose microphone, but there's a couple of things that you want to do. During your interviews, if you're a fidgeter, you don't want to be rolling this around in your hand because it's a metal body. Any sounds that you impart into this, particularly if you've got a ring like that, will end up in your audio. It's going to be very, very difficult to edit that out. You also never want to give up control of your microphone, so never hand it to somebody else, because as soon as you do, they're going to start talking. You're never going to be able to get it away from them, and you're going to have a whole lot of audio that you don't really want. The advantage to that very long cable is that you can put the microphone someplace that you can't necessarily be. So you could put it up on a city councilman's table or something like that, and then you can turn the recorder on and off from wherever it is that you're sitting. That cable, I believe, is about 9 feet, 10 feet in length, so you can get it pretty far away. So let's talk about interviewing. You're going to go out and you're going to interview your classmates here in a couple of minutes, and we'll give you some specifics on that in the class. And what you're going to be doing is you're just going to ask them a series of questions. And the first tip that I'm going to give you about interviewing is ask your questions in pairs. And this is a neat little interviewing technique. If you ask somebody for a print story what their name is, they're going to give you their name. Then you ask them where they're from, what their job title is, all these different things. The notes that you record there are going to be very handy, but they're not going to be usable if you're recording the audio. So one of the tips that I've picked up over the years is ask questions in pairs. So tell me what your name is and where are you from? And what will usually happen, not always, but usually, they're going to answer in complete sentences. One of the other things that I'll do when I'm doing an interview is I'm going to prep them for the interview. And what I mean by that is I'm going to explain how the interview is going to work. Most of the audio that we're going to record this semester and in your journalism career is going to be used as standalone audio. We're not going to have reporters' voices mixing in. So what I'll do is I'll tell folks that I'm going to ask them a series of questions. I want them to pause a few seconds before they answer. Think about their responses and then answer. And I may tell them, go ahead and think about the fact that nobody's going to hear my voice, the interviewer's voice. All we're going to hear is you. So you're going to be telling your own story, which is kind of important there. The reason I ask them to pause a little bit is that if they start speaking while I'm still speaking, it's going to be very difficult for me to eliminate that sound from the audio recording. And what I want to be able to do is have just their voice in there. So that pause is pretty important. Now, if you're a hummer or an agreeer, you want to make sure that that you get that under control. There's an awful lot of folks that they'll ask a question, and as the interview subject is responding, they'll sit there and go, uh-huh, mm-hmm, oh, yeah, uh-huh, that's interesting, that's interesting. All of that stuff, you just got to shut up. You got to be quiet. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole lot of problems. So that's the basics here. The vocabulary words that I think you should learn from this are the 3 file formats that we talked about. WMA, which is a Windows Media Audio file. WAV, which is an uncompressed high-quality audio file. MP3, which again is a compressed file, but that's a file that's universally usable. It's usable on the web, it's usable on MP3 players, and particularly in the SoundSlides program that we'll be working with in a couple of weeks here. You also want to be thinking about microphones and compression. Compression is what we end up doing with our audio files to make them smaller at the end. But again, the Nady SP4C is an omnidirectional microphone. The other 2 types of microphones that you'll come across from time to time are lavalier microphones, which are the small clip-on mics that you'll see some people wearing from time to time, and something called a shotgun microphone. And a shotgun microphone is designed to pick up audio at a distance. All right, so your assignment is going to be to go ahead and reformat and clear out one of these audio recorders, and then you and a partner are going to go out and you're going to interview your partner. And in that interview, you're going to ask them for their name and their hometown. You're going to ask them a couple of questions about what they hope to get out of this class, and perhaps, depending upon what your instructor says, you may ask them about an internship or job prospects or something like that. And what we'll do is, after you've gone out and done that, you're going to come in and you're going to copy the files off of your recorder. And to do that, you're going to separate out your recorder. So you'll hit the release button on the back and you'll plug it into your machine. It's going to show up as a thumb drive. You want to make sure that you put when you're doing your interview, in one folder, and if you're sharing the recorder with somebody else, make sure theirs goes in a different folder. And you're just, for this week, going to copy that folder off. Move it onto the hard drive for the computer there, and then copy it onto your USB drive. We'll worry about converting the files and editing the files next week. So that's the basics of audio recording there. Hopefully this has been helpful, Ask your instructors if you have any questions, or go back and review this video.
This series was produced for the Journalism Department of the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of Georgia by a grant from the James M. Cox Institute for Newspaper Management Studies.